Mr. Chair. General Katapang, on the January 25, umaga, sa Zamboanga kayo, nag-usap ba kayo ni Presidente kung paano ang rescue and reinforcement sa SAF forces?
Mr. Chair, Your Honor, no.
Secretary Gasmin, pwedeng mapapatay yung isang mic doon. Yung isang mic doon, yeah, thank you. Salamat po. The same question, nag-usap ba kayo ni Presidente ng umaga ng January 25 regarding the rescue and reinforcement ng SAF?
Hindi po. Ako po hindi nabigyan ng informasyon tungkol sa Oplan and Sudu.
Salamat po. General Purisima, as it seems from the hearings and your statement kanina, tuloy ang text niya ni Presidente all throughout the day mula 5:30 ng umaga hanggang 6:30 ng gabi regarding the Mamasapano operations. Tama po.
Your Honor, Mr. Chair, the text messages started at 5:45 in the morning.
Yes.
And then the second to the last message was 11:38 in the morning, and the last message was at 6 past 6 in the evening, Your Honor.
So General Purisima, you were in command of the operation. Kasama ng Presidente ang mga general, andyan yung mga Secretary of Defense, ang kinakausap niya regarding rescue and reinforcement ay ikaw. So Mr. General Purisima, ano ang karapatan mo, ano ang legal authority mo na mag-facilitate ng December 18 meeting, suspendido ka na pala nun? Hindi ba pag-violate yun sa order ng Ombudsman, General Purisima?
Your Honor, Mr. Chair, I was not in command of the January 25 operation. With reference to the meeting on January 18, I just facilitated the meeting so that the Police Director of the Peñas will be able to talk to the hierarchy of the armed forces of the Philippines, because that was already the previous guideline of the President in the previous operations to coordinate with the further with the AFP.
Inutusan ka ng Presidente na mag-coordinate kay General Espina. Ano ang legal authority mo? You were suspended then. You cannot be ordered as an official to coordinate with General Espina. Why would you brief the President on January 9 on your own? Meron ng OIC Chief PNP, General Purisima. You were suspended. Not only were you suspended, but General Espina is the OIC PNP Chief. Ano po ang legal authority nyo doon?
Your Honor, Mr. Chair, the January 9 meeting with the President, I was not briefing the President, Your Honor. I was just there to assist him, maybe understand what Police Director de Peñas will be talking about. I am not there to be a part of the planning session. In fact, that session was not a planning session, Your Honor. It was only a briefing, information briefing, and the President was not precluded from making comments and giving instruction. So, Your Honor,
yes. General Purisima, you were the one who facilitated the December 18 meeting. You were the one who facilitated the January 9 meeting. You were the one who recommended to the President ng second window ang dapat gamitin. You were the one na kino-communicate ng President to coordinate the January 25 rescue and reinforcement proceedings. Not one of the generals and the Secretary of the ILG. You cannot deny that you were in command. Otherwise, sino ngayon ang direct immediate supervisor ni General Peñas? The President himself? Is that what you're saying, General Purisima? It could not be Secretary Roas, General Espina, General Katapang. It was only you who is between General Peñas and the President, General Purisima.
Your Honor, the information relayed to the President was where the information I have taken from the officers of the Armed Forces of the Philippines and Police Director de Peñas. It was relayed only, Your Honor.
Yes, well, you can always claim that you are not in command, you were in relay, but you were the one being made in charge by the President the whole time. And in fact, buong araw kanyang siyang nagko-coordinate sa iyo at hindi sa mga general na kasama niya. But ito na lang ang tanong ko, General Purisima. You told General Peñas, huwag mo nang sabihin sa dalawa, meaning Secretary Rojas at General Espina. Anong dahilan mo doon? Wala ka bang tiwala sa kanila?
Your Honor, the comment was made that is in line with the plan of PNP SAF that to inform everybody time on target.
Kasi wala kang tiwala sa kanila that baka kumalat ng information, makatakas si Marwan. Is that what you're saying,
Yun po
General?
yung plano ng PNP SAF, Your Honor. Sumusunod lang po ako kasi hindi po ako nagplano, sila po ang nagplano. Kaya nga po, kung atin pong titingnan, na-inform din ako, time on target, at 5:45 in the morning nung nalaman ko na nag-jump off na pala sila, Your Honor.
So parang si General Napeñas na ngayon ang may imbento na huwag i-inform si Secretary Rojas at si General Espina. Itong problema natin dito, nobody seems to accept fault eh. But anyway, General Purisima, klaro sa hearing na ito, you were in command. Ang tanong sa sunod dito sana, Mr. Chair, sa Presidente, bakit mo hinayaan ang isang suspendidong general na mamahala sa operasyon? That should have been the question asked, but now nobody from the resource persons can answer that. I'll just go to the next batch of questions.
Your Honor, may I answer that?
Yes, you may. Thanks.
Your Honor, I was not in command with the January 25 operation. I was just only relaying information that I have gathered to the President and to Police Director Napeñas. Hindi po ako nagko-command doon. I did not give any order to do this and to do that. It was only a relay of information. Ako po ay nakikiusap sa Commanding General ng Westmincom na para tulungan yung mga tropa natin. Yun po yung ginawa ko pong isa na nakikiusap po sa kanila para tulungan yung mga operating elements ng PNP Special Action Force. Yun po, Your Honor. But to command is not what I have done in January 25.
Well, you were the one coordinating with General Guerrero. So kahit ano pang sabihin mo, ang sa isip talaga namin, you were the one in command. But in any case, I'll just go to my next set of questions. Kasi alam ko hindi mo aaminin na hinayaan ka ni Presidente Aquino not to supervise the operation. Next set of questions. There are conflicting stories here. The PNP, General Napeñas, is saying kulang ang support ng AFP. The AFP is saying, actually, willing kami magbigay ng support except na kapos ang protocols, for example, dito sa artillery support, if I may. Now, the question is, the BOI report showed telltale signs that there seems to be an unseen hand somewhere that held back the support and reinforcement sa SAF. General Pangilinan, if I may ask you the question, you withheld artillery support, no? Other than yung sinabi ni General Katapang na in consideration of the peace process, you mentioned na sabi mo you withheld support because protocol requirements were not present. One is the yung forward observer. Two, yung direct communication between the artillery and the troops. And three, location of the hostile forces and the troops. General Pangilinan, tama po ba yan?
Tama po, pero dagdagan po natin na kasama po doon sa aking hinahanap ay yung presence o kung may presence ng community or civilians in the area to avoid collateral damage, Your Honor.
Yes,
One
tama.
last question for
Tama.
the Honorable
Mr. Chair,
One last question.
follow through lang ito, Mr. Chair.
Yes,
So, merong DRC na pumasok ng mga alas 10 ng umaga. Army na ito. DRC company. They were the ones saying na mag-request ng artillery kasi kita nila 500 meters na lang yung SAF eh. So, they were saying that, but you still, despite the army itself describing the situation, do you think this did not fulfill the protocols that you required?
Your Honors, there's no truth to that report that my team leader requested for fire support. The team leader that went to that area, the DRC is here. You may ask from him. He
Just
said
looking
that.
at the BOI report. The BOI report in page 30 said that the DRC was there. in the
Yes, Your
area.
Honor. The reason why I am saying that there's no truth to that because there was no request from the team leader. In fact, the team leader, Your Honor, is here. We can ask him if he requested for fire support, Your Honor.
May we ask Mr. Chair, this is not a question kasi he was
Okay,
leading
okay. The team leader. Who is the team leader?
Sige ko. Maraming salamat ha. Thank you. Bye.
Can you please identify yourself? Naka-out ba ito? Were you here during the first hearing? Nandito po kayo nung first hearing natin? Noong February 11?
Wala, sir.
Kinakailangan mag-oath muna kayo bago magsalita. Madam Secretary, please administer.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please state your name and other circumstances.
The question remains, DRC.
Please, can you please recognize yourself? Identify yourself, rather.
I'm Staff Sergeant Haranilla, Wheeler de Haranilla, from 62nd RC, 6ID Philippine Army.
So, the question is, nandun kayo sa area sa DRC, di ba? Mr. Chair, hindi itong last question kasi this is just a follow-up.
Last. Last. Last answer din.
Ako yung ay
Pakisagot po yung tanong ni Honorable Colmenares.
Ito yung sinabi ng BOI report. 3 teams of staff overheard the AFP 62nd DRC was calling his unit asking for artillery support. According to the sworn statement of witnesses, the request of the team leader was turned down because there was no prior coordination made by SAF and the peace negotiator. International team will be arriving. Shortly thereafter, itong tanong din, 62nd DRC, nandun na kayo 500 meters, received instruction from their team leader to pull out from the engagement area and go back to the highway. Ito po yung, do you confirm this BOI report or are you saying the BOI is lying when they made this report?
Mr. Chairman, the question is being asked of a resource person. There is somebody coaching. Please, do I coach?
Your Honor, Tagalog lang, Your Honor, maraming tindahan ko.
Tagalogin mo, Bisaya.
Order, please.
Ang ginahakpan ko, bisan mag-Ilonggo ka, makaintindi man ko.
Order, please. Order, please. Let me clarify, mukhang hindi naman nagko-coach, kundi ina-assist lang niya para doon sa questions na nire-raise ni Honorable Colmenares. At kung pwede po sana sa kagalang-galang na Colmenares, pakitagalog po yung questions at saka pakidahan-dahan lang po para hindi na maging dubious yung... Thank you.
Before Congressman Colmenares, may I know, General, what is your position?
Al Pereiras, I'm the Judge Advocate General. I'm representing now the resource person, Mr. Jan.
Well,
this is just advising.
Ang sabi ng BOI report, may 3 team leaders ng SAF narinig ang AFP 62nd DRC nang sinabi ka ng General Peñas 500 to 600 meters na lang doon sa troops. At itong unit na ito humingi ng artillery support, nakikita nila nandun na sila, malapit na According to sworn statement, ayon sa salaysay, the request ng team leader ay hindi binigay dahil ng artillery support dahil wala namang coordination bago ang SAF at may peace negotiator na darating. Tapos later on, ito nakapagtataka, ang 62nd DRC na malapit na talaga, naka-receive ng instruction na sila ay mag-pull out sa engagement area and go back at bumalik doon sa highway. So, totoo po ba itong report ng BOI?
Hindi po, Your Honor.
Ano yung nangyari?
Nung doon kami sa area, Your Honor, hindi ko makikita yung kung saan yung banda yung kalaban. Nung nagingap kami sa 45 SAC, dapat hindi sana kami doon sa 45 sack magpunta. 55 sack yung puntahan sana namin kay reinforce namin kunin ang wounded nila at saka yung hindi pa na wounded, ilabasan na namin sa kalsada yon. Your Honor, nung dumating kami sa gilid ng ilog, kinontak ng 43rd sack ang 55th sack para makapunta kami sa nila. Hindi nila nakontak. Nagdesisyon ang 43rd sack na mag-link up na lang sa 45th sack, Your Honor. Nung nagdesisyon na ng 43rd sack na magpunta kami sa 45th sack, tumawid kami ng ilog. Nung tumawid kami ng ilog, nadatna namin yung 43rd sack na nakadapa at nakaupo doon sa gilid ng ilog sa ilalim ng sagingan. Nung papukso-pukso yung putok doon, habang nag-aaral kami, papukso-pukso yung putok doon. Nandun na kami sa 43rd sack na yon, ay 45th sack. Sinabihan ako ng SAP na, Sergeant, anong magandang diskarte? Sabi ko, sir, tawirin natin ang ilog para makalapit tayo sa 55th sack na yung pipin down. Nung wala masyang reaksyon na, pagsabi ko wala masyang reaksyon, bumalik ako sa isang seksyon ko at naghintay ako kung anong desisyon nila. Wala man silang desisyon hanggang sa nabutan ako ng 1:30 ng hapon. Tinawagan ako ng opisyal ko na bumalik ako sa kalsada, mag-link up pa kay Lieutenant Concepcion. Nag-link up pa sa kanya. Bago nung nangyari na yun, nagpaalam ako sa SAP na, sir, magbalik ako sa kalsada na mag-link up ako doon kay Lieutenant Concepcion. Pumayag naman siya, tapos umalis ako, sir, nung 1:30 na yun, sir, ng hapon.
Bakit kayo mag-withdraw? Nandun na kayo sa area na yon, nasa ilog na kayo.
May I remind the Honorable?
Well, yun ang tanong. Just last question, General Napeñas, do you think the DRC could have served as forward observer? Could have served as the line of communication dito in your analysis? At sabi mo, 500 or so meters na lang sila. At hindi dapat nag-withdraw. That's my last question, Mr. Chair.
If General Napeñas could answer.
Do you think the protocols could have been observed by the DRC na nandun na sila within 500 or so meters?
Your Honor, hindi ko po masasagot yon kasi wala ako sa ground. Maski 500 meters yan, Your Honor, in fairness lang. Eh kung mayroong sagingan, may puno na hindi mo rin makikita yung lugar na 500 meters away, marami pong consideration, Your Honor, kaya hindi ko po masasagot yon.
Thank you, General Napeñas. Thank you.
May motion lang ako, Your Honor. Not a motion, but can we also ask General Purissima's cell phone for forensic studies if he will allow the committee to have access to his cell phone for the same forensic studies, Mr. Chair?
Is that the motion or?
Yeah, that a request lang muna, Mr. Chair. We don't need to.
If the good general would like to react on the request of the Honorable Colmenares.
Your Honor, I already submitted the transcription of short messages from His Excellency to with other officers, and they are made under oath, Your Honor.
Same observation as General Acop. We would like to find out. Anyway, kung the transcripts are there, General Purissima, there is no problem with the forensics study. In the same manner na nag-agree ang AFP for that. So, is it all right with you that you also submit your phone?
There are other contents in my cell phone, Your Honor, that should not be seen.
Well, you can screen that during the forensic study, General Purissima. Pwede namang yung related lang sa Mamasapano, yung kukunin, General Purissima. Mr. Chair, if we
Your
can
Honor, in the forensics, they can make a copy and then make fun of you later.
Eh, wala ka ring tiwala sa forensics nyo? That is already the PNP, I guess, who will do that.
Well,
Your Honor, I already made my transcription under oath.
Yes. If I may...
So the answer is no.
I understand that the intention of the Honorable Colmenares is to request, and it is understandable that the good general is not going to present his cell phone to the committee. So what is the reaction of the...
Just a statement.
So the answer is no in that case, Mr. Chair.
I wish to emphasize that when we invite persons in the committee hearings, we always recognize their constitutional rights. The right to be silent, the right against self-incrimination, and the right to privacy. And considering that General Purisma has impliedly invoked his right to privacy, I think we have to respect his constitutional right.
Mr. Chair, di ko naman pinipilit, Mr. Chair,
yes,
what is the use of that speech?
that
Magpatagal
is
lang yun. Wala naman ako
answer.
sinasabing pilitin siya, Mr. Chair.
Well,
we're not violating his rights.
The Honorable Conerares, the General had already replied na hindi po niya
Yes, Mr. Chair.
ibigay sa committee na ito yung So, next to interpellate is Congressman Erice.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. General Capeñas, do you confirm that you are the overall commander of Oplan Exodus, both in the planning and the implementation?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what is the role of General Purisima as far as you are concerned?
Siya po yung nagpapalitan ko kami ng text messages. Nag-umpisa pa
So
noon.
he is the expert advisor. Would you confirm that?
I cannot answer that question, Your Honor.
So what is the role of General Purisima as far as you are concerned? Because you are the overall commander, you admitted that you are the overall commander of the operations, both in the planning and the implementation.
Lumalabas po yun, Sir Siana, yung parang supervisor na sa akin. There was one time na nagbigay ng utos sa akin si General Purisima yung 5:30 in the afternoon. Tawagan muna si General Guerrero. That was the time na nagre-request ako ng artillery support. Yung hapon na para dun sa 84th SAC.
Is this the first time? Okay, that's fine with me. Is this the first time that you headed or commanded an operation against a high-value target? Is this the first time?
No, Your Honor.
Pwede yung paki-explain kung ano yung pang ibang mga nagawa nyo, for example?
Yung 2010, Your Honor, I was then the Deputy Director of Special Action Force. So, ang immediate supervisor ko doon is yung Director ng Special Action Force. In 2012...
But you are the overall commander then? No.
Yes, Your Honor, in the ground. Yes.
Not the Director of SAP, but you as the...
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And who's the target?
It was Marwan in Sulu.
And you were able to... I'm sure that operation is a failure.
Nakaalis po si Marwan just as...
So it's a failure. It's a failure.
Yes. We were arriving, then malapit
So
lang.
you were not able to capture Marwan?
Hindi po nahuli.
Ano pa ang ibang operations na nagawa mo bukod dito?
Lanao del Sur, Your Honor, ganun din po yun.
Sino po ang target?
Si Marwan pa rin po.
Were you successful then?
Hindi rin po.
Hindi rin po.
Mga 250
ano po ang
meters.
operation yung naging successful kayo?
Ito lang yung itong last.
So wala po kayong nagawang operations na successful. And this time,
there were other operations pero hindi si Marwan, Your Honor.
High value targets?
Yes, Your Honor.
Sino yan? Sino po yun?
Sigapur Jumdail.
Successful po ito?
Yes, Your Honor.
Nasaan na po yung target?
Patay po sila kasama yung dalawa.
You are the overall commander?
Yes, Your Honor. Sinupervisean ko po rin po yan.
Meron pa po bang iba?
Yung Kalabasa operations, Your Honor, doon sa Zamboanga.
High value target?
High value target din po yun, Your Honor. Nirescue ng 84th SAC din yung Chinese victim na kidnapping at na-rescue nila.
So this is not the first time that you commanded a high value target operations?
Totoo po yan, Your Honor.
Doon sa mga nakaraang high value operations na yan, nag-present pa kayo sa Pangulo ng inyong plano?
Yung hindi po, Your Honor, except itong
Bakit po kayo
ng
nag-present
Terminator at
ngayon
saka
sa
Exodus.
Pangulo?
Maaring po bang pakiulit yung tanong, Your Honor?
Bakit yung dati po, high value targets, hindi kayo nagpe-present ng inyong detailed plan? Bakit dito sa pagkakataong ito, nag-present kayo ng detalyadong plano sa Pangulo?
Tinawag po kami ni General Purisima nung nag-render kami ng mission update at isinama po ako. Pinapunta din po niya ako doon sa Bahay Pangarap noong January 9 at doon ko present yung mission update.
Ano
at
po
yung
ang sinabi sa inyo ni General Purisima? Bakit kayo pupunta sa Bahay Pangarap?
Ang maalala ko po, kailangan i-present natin, pupunta tayo doon kay Presidente para ipakita yung magkaroon ng mission update, Your Honor.
And do you think that the President has enough knowledge, technical capability to understand your plan?
I cannot answer that question, Your Honor. I don't like to be making assumption and presumption.
Kasi po nagtataka ako, bakit ngayon lang ngayon isang operasyon sa isang high value target na pwede nyo namang gawin na hindi na kailangan pang ipresenta sa Pangulo, presenta nyo pa sa Pangulo?
Hindi ko malaman po, Your Honor, yung arrangement ng former Director SAF, yung 2012 operations doon sa Lanao Sur, if there was a direct contact ng Director that time kay Presidente o wala.
So,
dahil that time ay Deputy Director lang po ako, Your Honor.
Meaning that this is the first time that you did this? First time
kay Presidente.
in all your experiences in conducting operations for high value targets.
Pangalawa po ito, Your Honor, yung April 25 na operation at saka itong Exodus, Your Honor.
On the April 25 operations, you also briefed the President?
Yes, Your Honor.
Where?
In Camp Crame at the National Headquarters, Your Honor.
At the instructions of?
Last 1 minute.
In-arrange po yun ni General Purisima that at times siya po yung Chief PNP at bumisita po si Presidente sa National Headquarters at isinabay po na i-present po namin yung concept of operation, yung Oplan Wolverine. Ito po yung April 25 operations, Your Honor.
General Purisima, yung pong yung text messages nyo, kung i-analyze nyo, meron po bang sense of urgency para makialam ng direkta ang Pangulo sa rescue operations ng mga SAP troopers?
Your Honor, to my understanding, hindi po ang Pangulo ang dapat mag-direct ng coordination because we have the ground commander that will be performing those jobs, Your Honor.
Last question,
hindi po
Last
alam
question.
hindi alam ng Pangulo na nasa delikadong estado na yung ating mga SAP troopers.
Yung pong, Your Honor, yung pong nakita nyo sa aking mga text message, yun lang po ang nakarating sa Pangulo sa aking pamamagitan, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Nerise. And the next to ask question is Congressman Gwen Garcia, and the last to ask. The last to ask is Congressman Tino. So, Congresswoman Garcia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My first question would be directed to General Purisima, and I refer once again to that crucial January 9, 2015 meeting at the Bahay Pangarap, where the mission update and the new concept of operation was presented to President Aquino. I am now quoting from the Senate report, for which the operation was codenamed Oplan Exodus. Now, according to the Senate report, Napeñas also testified that after the President advised about the need to coordinate with the AFP, he appealed, meaning General Napeñas, appealed that prior coordination with AFP would compromise the mission, and to which the President allegedly said nothing. However, after Napeñas left the meeting room, Purisima had a brief one-on-one meeting with the President, after which Purisima told Napeñas, "Huwag mo munang sabihan iyong dalawa. Saka na pag nandun na, ako na ang bahala kay General Katapan." Do you confirm this statement, General Purisima?
Yes, Your Honor.
General Purisima, this particular statement, was this an offshoot of a direct instruction from the President, or was this your order or advice or suggestion?
That statement, Your Honor, was an advice. What we have taken up with the President's meeting when we were left behind, Your Honor, was
So it was an
his
advice.
order for me to inform Police Deputy Director General Espina about the operation and some matters about music, Your Honor.
So it was an advice, General Purisima.
Yes, Your Honor.
Considering that what General Napeñas had requested or had reservations about was informing the AFP why then did you include Secretary Mar Rojas and OIC General Espina as those that should also be kept out of the loop?
Your Honor, the principle involved in the planning of the PNP SAF was that everybody will be informed time on target, and that also included me.
General Napeñas, prior to Oplan Exodus, there were 9 other operations against Marwan and Usman. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Of these operations, you were in charge of how many?
Bibilangin ko po, Your Honor, pero hindi po lahat, especially yung mga 2013 na operations, Your Honor, dahil hindi po ko assign sa Special Action Force ng the whole year of 2013.
Would you say that in previous operations, of which you were on top of such operation, what specific coordination did you conduct? Was the SILG informed? And of course, General Purisima was informed?
Yung April 25 po na operation, meron pong coordination. In fact, it's a briefing na nandoon po sila lahat. Yung July...
So there was prior, in all previous operations of which you were a part of, the SILG, as well as, of course, at the time, I believe General Purisima was not yet suspended. The Chief PNP was on top of the operation.
Yes, Your Honor. Yung
And so,
July 2012 na operation, Your Honor, it was not the SILG who was present. It was then the USEC.
but there was coordination with the SILG.
Yes, Your Honor, yung 2012 na
And so
operation
when you were
San
given
Lorenzo.
instructions by General Purisima na
He-
huwag mo munang sabihan ang dalawa, considering that you were only requesting for, you had some hesitation with prior coordination with the AFP, and you never requested the President that the SILG and OIC General Espina would not be informed. What went through your mind when you were given this instruction by General Purisima?
Yung akin po, Your Honor, yung sinasabi sa akin ni General Purisima actually comes from the President, considering na yung subject ng usapan, it's about coordination with the AFP.
Were you not a bit confused, or perhaps did you start asking yourself why on this 10th operation the Secretary and our OIC Chief PNP would not be informed?
I had reservation, Your Honor. However, nakikita ko rin na ito yung sitwasyon na yung prerogative ng Presidente siguro sa pananaw ko kung sino man yung gusto niya na mamahala or mag-relay ng informasyon or utos papunta sa akin, Your Honor.
Now may I ask Secretary Rojas, Secretary Mar, you were quoted in one of the few news reports that came out coming from an unnamed police general that you were furious that you were kept out of the loop. And it has now come out in the course of the BAOI as well as the Senate investigations that in fact there were specific instructions to General Napeñas that you as well as OIC Espina would be kept out of the loop for the time being. Why do you think you should be kept out of the loop in this 10th operation when in all previous operations you were informed?
Ma'am, let me just correct the premise of your question. I was present in an April 2014 briefing. I was not present in any other briefing thereafter for all the other operations.
But you were informed?
No. I was not informed or present for any of the missions other than the April 2014 briefing, which was attended by the President and by the, at the time, the Director General of the PNP, Purisima. This was the one that was held in Camp Crame. Now, that operation, Madam Chair, Madam Congressman, Mr. Chair, was aborted for various reasons. It was a big operation. I was briefed on it. This was in April of 2014, which is why my assumption was whenever there would be a big operation, I would be so informed. And that is why on January 25, not having been informed that there was such an operation of such magnitude, moving 390 people across provinces, across commands, across the entire Mindanao, and entering the what was described earlier in this committee as a kill zone. It never occurred to me that there was such a thing that was going on January 25. Now, with respect to your question of why was I not informed, I cannot hazard a guess. All I know is that as has been confirmed by earlier testimony, repeatedly, here in the House, in the Senate, and so on and so forth, OIC Espina and myself were kept out of the loop. Now, as to my reaction, on Monday, January 26, after having arrived back in Manila around 9 p.m., SecVolts, myself, decided to fly to Cotabato City to find out exactly what was going on. So we flew on Monday, January 26, very early in the morning, and we went. There is a video. I'm not in possession of it, but I've seen it. There is a video of that first part of the briefing where General Napeñas was briefing us about the operation, and I asked him, how could you move? Who authorized this? What happened? And so on and so forth. My reaction, Mr. Chair, Madam Congresswoman, is because had I known, this is all after the fact, at hindi ako nagmamarunong dito at hindi ako nagmamagaling dito, no? But yung relasyon ko sa kay SecVolts, lahat ng aming operasyon, from Zamboanga to earthquake sa Bohol, to Yolanda, to Ruby, lahat ng aming gawain sa kay Pope, we always coordinate with each other. We always coordinate with each other. So, sa akin is, paano ako makakapag-coordinate sa kay SecVolts kung hindi ko alam ito? Alam ko naman po na wala kaming helicopter, wala kaming artillery, wala kami yung mga puwersa na pangkaraniwan na nasa AFP. Kaya madalas ako mag-coordinate kay SecVolts. In fact, for other instances, halimbawa, pumunta ako sa Surigao na para humarap at tanggapin yung pag-surrender ng NPA ng mga nabihag nilang mga pulis. Nag-coordinate ako kay SecVolts, pakisabi sa brigade doon na papasok ako doon, and so on and so forth, no? So that explains yung whether I don't know whether the word is furious or angry or what, but ang akin is may mga namatay dito, di ba? Hindi basta-basta na dapat nating isubo yung mga tao natin na hindi natin sila binibigyan ng every chance of success and safe exit, no? Kaya nung nalaman ko na meron pala ganitong kalaking operasyon na hindi pinaalam sa akin, ay talagang uminita po ako.
Thank you. One last question, please. We only have one last question left.
Well, I will beg the indulgence of the chair, as did the previous congressman before me, that after this question I may be given last to the last.
Okay, you have two last questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for your indulgence. And so, Secretary Rojas, this last question for yourself. What do you think would have been so peculiar about the Oplan Exodus when, by your own words, previous operations or moving of troops of such magnitude had previously been coordinated with yourself? I am sure after I saw you on television sympathizing, condoling with the families, and really feeling very bad about what happened. I am sure then you have had time to reflect. Why were you kept out of the loop? Could come up now with a good reason why this peculiar and particular operation was kept out of your knowledge?
I do not know po. Honestly, I do not know. I only know that uncontroverted, uncontested,
General Napeñas was told, saka mo nasabihan yung dalawa. And so that's why on the day of the operation, on the 25th, wala kaming makontribute kasi wala naman kaming alam na may pangyayari na ganong kalaki or ganong kapeligroso. Madam Congressman.
Thank you, Secretary. And may I ask my last question to either Secretary Deles or Professor Coronel Ferrer?
Please proceed.
This is as regards the revised joint AFP PNP operational guidelines for the ad hoc joint action group, which specifically states on the prior to law enforcement operation, this is phase 1, except for operations against high priority targets, a list of which shall be provided by the GPH panel to the MILF panel. The adjunct shall inform the GPH at least 24 hours prior to the conduct of the AFP. Well, a lot has been said about coordination, prior coordination. In the case of Marwan and Usman, because you have here in your definition of terms which correspond to corresponding action, whether or not 24 hours notice should be given, would you consider Usman and Marwan as high priority targets or criminals? Because for criminal elements alone, there needs to be 24 hours prior coordination. And after that answer, because this has a bearing on the most recent international monitoring team assertion that this after all was not a massacre but a misencounter again, and that both sides were at fault because they did not respect the ceasefire agreement. Would you consider Marwan and Usman as high priority targets? And if you did, then therefore 24 hours notice was not needed. In fact, the Senate committee report states so, that the interpretation of General Napeñas as regards this particular mode of engagement was correct. Or did you just consider Marwan and Usman as criminals?
Your Honor, yes, Marwan and Usman are classified as high priority targets or high value targets, and there was a list that has been submitted way back in 2012 to that effect, although at the time the report was Marwan was already killed in this operation in Sulu during that time. But in any case, if we will go back to the rule, who coordinates with whom? Your Honor, you read the text. It says there, adjunct shall coordinate with the ceasefire committee. And then the differences as to when they coordinate applies at least 24 hours, or in the case of ongoing operations, pursuit operations, etc. But the reference there is...
Excuse me,
yes.
may I just correct you? Because letter F of number 1, phase 1, states, and I state this again because there was quite a debate between you and Senator Alan Cayetano as regards this. It states, except for operations against high priority targets.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
the subject of the sentence is adjunct.
The 24-hour.
Yes, ma'am. Adjunct.
May I finish?
Yes, ma'am.
Except for operations against high priority targets, a list of which, as you said, has been provided, should be provided to the GPH panel. The adjunct shall inform. So in all other cases,
ma'am, yes.
In all other cases which should involve kidnapping, should involve all of these criminal syndicates and everything else. But the specific exception is for high priority targets, in which the 24-hour prior coordination does not apply.
May I explain, ma'am? The rule is right, there are exceptions, but I wish to draw attention to the subject of the sentence. The subject of the sentence is adjunct, and the adjunct is the ad hoc joint action group. And the person to be, or the body to be informed is the ceasefire committee, which is the CCCH. Adjunct shall inform the ceasefire committee, and that's where the rule applies, except for less than 24 hours, meaning that whatever kind of operation there is, adjunct should have been informed. But the rule applies as to when adjunct shall inform the ceasefire committee, which is a separate body. And it's very clear in the text, remove all the prepositional phrases, you get down to the subject. The subject is adjunct, and the subject of the object of the action is CCCH.
No, the
adjunct
subject
shall
is
inform the
yes,
CCCH.
in all other cases, except, and in fact, the importance of this exception cannot be overemphasized. It starts the sentence.
Yes, ma'am.
Except for operations against high priority targets.
It assumes that adjunct is informed of all law enforcement operations. Then the procedure.
No, that is an assumption.
No, ma'am.
We are talking here. Yes, in fact, the specific body that is tasked to inform the GPH is adjunct. Now,
the ceasefire committee, ma'am, the adjunct is already a joint body. Adjunct is the ad hoc joint action group made up of government and MILF. So who informs whom? It is adjunct informing the ceasefire committee.
Allow me to just simplify my question. You have accepted that Usman and Marwan are high priority targets. In the case of the operation against Usman and Marwan, did you consider, or do you believe that still the adjunct should have informed the CCCH panel?
Yes, ma'am. There are several levels of coordination. First, adjunct should have been informed in the first place so that it can take action when it will inform the ceasefire committee. And I guess, again, if we draw attention to what was stated in Oplan Exodus, there were specific instructions there to actually coordinate with both the adjunct and the ceasefire committee in keeping with the signed protocol, including the internal protocols that were signed between the police and the armed forces of the Philippines way back in 2013. So I would like to draw your attention to who actually informs whom, and in which cases, therefore, that rule applies. That rule has to do with when adjunct informs the ceasefire committee, not when adjunct is informed of the operation or of the law enforcement operation. Therefore, it assumes that the adjunct is always coordinated with on matters pertaining to law enforcement operation in areas where there is MILF presence.
And so you're saying that even in the case of high priority targets, the PNP or the AFP or any other any other operation against high priority targets should first be coordinated or informed by the
law enforcement operators. Inform the adjunct, Your Honor.
Well, thank you very much. May I just say on record that the opinion or the response of Professor Coronel Ferrer runs counter to the conclusion that was set forth by the Senate committee, by the Senate report, which I had earlier asked to be a term of reference.
Just a short comment on that. I would like to say that the Board of Inquiry upheld our interpretation of the rule.
Well, the last statement that I was saying is that the last question should be made by the Honorable Gwen Garcia, and for the records, the interpretation and so with of course the statement of the Chair Ferrer, I think we should first respect the interpretation of the Senate also, and I think also we should acknowledge that the interpretation of the OPAP, but even then, I think that there is some gray areas on which it's if we have some other venues to please communicate with the committee on this particular issue, because it seems that there are some differences on the interpretation of the policy that was being implemented by the ceasefire committees. And with that, since last na po si Congresswoman Garcia at matatapos na po yung ating oras at nakapag-decide po ang both chairman ng committees na 5:30 ang last na araw na ito. So I am now turning over the preside.
Mr. Chair, just
yes,
inquiry, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, are we assured that the resource persons present today will be present tomorrow as well, Mr. Chair?
Well, except of course there are some letters that have been submitted to this committee by the Secretary, the Honorable Secretary Mar, and so with the Secretary of National Defense. And they will not be available tomorrow. Precisely why we are asking the members that to ask question now whenever there is a necessary that has to be answered by the two gentlemen.
Mr. Chair.
So to clarify, Mr. Chair, all the resource persons will be present except for Secretary of the ILG and DND. Mr.
And
Chair.
for the information of the members also that the MALF representative, Mohagir Iqbal, will also be present tomorrow.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Yes.
And since you are assuring us that other resource persons will be present, will the DFA be around also tomorrow?
We already sent our invitation since that is the request of the Honorable Congresswoman Ilaga.
And one more item, Mr. Chair, when will we have our executive session as discussed earlier?
We will discuss that tomorrow.
Mr. Chair, with respect to the executive session, we just request that we be given enough time because the personnel might be stationed far. So by tomorrow, if you tell us by tomorrow, then Friday, maybe 2 days time or 3 days time. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I move to suspend our hearing.
Second.